We'll talk to Andy again here in a bit. It's interview time. Let's see. Mr. William Ramsey, sir, welcome to the Killstream. Sorry I got you on a little late. I was running late, and I have so much stuff I had to cram into that opening there. But thank you, sir, for coming on the Killstream.
Thanks for the invite. Glad to be here.
All right. Now, as I do with pretty much every guest, I let them introduce themselves, go through their history, tell the audience who they are and stuff like that. So could you do that for the audience here on the Killstream?
Sure. My name is William Ramsey. I've published 3 books. I've done 5 documentaries, all on differing subjects. The book that I was requested to join your show on was Abomination, Devil Worship, and Deception in the West Memphis 3 Murders. But I've also written Prophet of Evil, Aleister Crowley, 9/11, and the New World Order, and also Children of the Beast, which is about Aleister Crowley's influence upon 20th century culture. And my documentaries are Children of the Beast, Prophet of Evil, Smiley Face Killers, Smiley Face Killers Volume 2, and Occult Hollywood, all available on Vimeo.
Now, you mentioned, and also we'll take some callers. Callers, if you want to jump in, Gator's going to throw out that link here in a minute. We have Bibble still with us as well, going to join us for this interview. Now, I think the secretary told you this, but I'm not sure. I am from West Memphis, and actually was born in Memphis, lived across the river there in West Memphis for the first 20 years of my life. That's where I'm from. My family's buried there and shit. That's my town. And
how old were you when the murders took place?
Well, it was 1993, I believe, right?
Right.
I was 8 years old. And I actually had went to Cub Scouts with one of the kids. I think it was Michael Moore. I believe that's the name. There's a picture of him in the Cub Scouts uniform somewhere.
Actually, the Cub Scouts uniform was found at the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
One of the ways
I was actually in.
But it's also kind of chilling that you were 8 years old too, because
I was 8 years old. Yeah, I was the exact same age as the victims when they were murdered. And it's kind of hard to explain because if you didn't really live in that town, you don't really understand fully. And there's been some movies made about it, of course, Paradise Lost and all that stuff. But it was like a complete lockdown. You couldn't go outside and play without being watched by your parents for like a year and a half or more. The whole town was locked down. Like there was just an edge in the air. It was really something that was strange. I mean, it kind of affected your childhood. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you were free to go play, do whatever you want all around. And then, people are looking for the next murder and, some other kid might get killed. And it was paranoia to the extreme in West Memphis. And of course I was the same age as the kids too. So like my parents were just fucking, excuse my French there, really concerned with my safety. And so, yeah, it was wild. But yeah, go ahead and tell people, and again, we're going to go through it all, but tell them your thesis and how you got involved with the case.
Well, I was studying Aleister Crowley at the time. I was actually researching my book when I came across a video from Paradise Lost that showed Damien Eccles in question about Aleister Crowley, and that really piqued my kind of interest in the case. I didn't know much about the West Memphis 3 murders. I had just learned of things online. I had watched the original Paradise Lost documentaries back in, I think, 96. I didn't really think much of it. This is about the 2012, 2013, and the West Memphis 3 had been let out of jail in August 2011.
That's
but
right.
the involvement of Aleister Crowley really was like, oh, what's this? And I really just believed that they had gotten off on a technicality. I did not know the real details, what had happened. So fortunately for me, I was able to go through all the court documents, which were located at Callahan 8K online. So you're able to read the court documents and all the police records. Somebody had scanned those in and put them on the internet. So once I was reading that, I got a completely different impression about the case.
Also, can I ask you, can I pause you real quick and ask you, because I can tell Discord's clipping you and it's going to keep clipping you. Do you see the little cogwheel next to the headphone icon? The little settings wheel next to the, should be next to your username. Look in the bottom left of the Discord window.
Oh, at the ADL Center, or go to Discord?
No, Discord itself. Let's see. It'll say user settings. It's right in
Discord.
Yeah, so you see your name down at the bottom, your icon. Hold on.
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Now go to the cogwheel. You see that?
Oh, user settings, yeah.
Yeah, hit that, and then go to voice and video, and then pull your you see where it says automatic.
I see it. Yep.
Unclick the automatically determined input sensitivity, pull it all the way back to the left, and then you should be good to go without clipping.
Okay. How does that sound?
That sounds so much better. Yeah, it's just every once in a while. Yours wasn't as bad as some people's, but it's enough to. I could see people getting upset in the chat, so I just want to go ahead and clear it up. Yeah, it's all good. Okay, go ahead.
Good.
Now go ahead.
As long as that's better.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, so then I just started researching the case, and that kind of put together a whole. I had some background in Crowley, and I saw the case much differently than what the documentaries would lead you to believe. There were 3 documentaries for people who don't know, all produced by HBO.
Right.
Paradise Lost was the first, and so they painted this picture of these parents being involved, but me reading through the case and looking through the appeals process and the actual Supreme Court of New York's decision, a lot of the statements were transparently false. And so I was pretty shocked that these guys got let out of jail. They actually pled guilty in 2011, which is a kind of a strange.
They got out on an Alford plea, which is
right.
I don't know if you've read what an Alford plea is. Basically, I don't know. I don't want to describe it wrong. Let me just fucking Google it.
The case was a case from North Carolina. It was North Carolina versus Alford. It's not Alfred. It's A-L.
Alford. Yeah, Alford. A-L-F-O-R-D. Right. An Alford plea.
Right. And what the case?
Yeah, go ahead. You can tell them. Go ahead.
All it is what it does is that you can plead guilty, but you can publicly claim your innocence. Right. But I can, but it's still a guilty plea as far as the law is concerned.
It's really strange.
They pled guilty.
Yeah. Basically, they pled guilty, but you're still allowed to say, "Wink, wink. I'm not actually guilty. I'm just doing this to get out of jail." And so that's what they did, and they let them out of jail. Damien Echols was on death row, and the other 2 were not on death row. If you've ever watched the Paradise Lost movies, particularly the first one. Echols is very flamboyant, I guess you might say, combative. I'm not sure how you would describe it, but there's
my impression is that he was the ringleader. He was older than them by 2 years.
That's why they said they put him on death row for that reason. But he was also the most he
was over prominent. 18.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I think the other 2 were 17, right?
If you watch that documentary, there's a sequence of him sitting next to Jason Baldwin, and he looks twice the size of Jason Baldwin, like a full adult, and Baldwin looks like he hasn't even hit puberty. So he's bigger and taller than him, and Miss Kelly was not a person of larger stature. So
now I'll tell you this: I grew up when it happened. The whole town thought they were guilty. Like there was just no doubt about it. Really, lock them up and throw away the key. I mean, there was a lot of people that wanted to do more than lock them up. Let's be real here. That would be a common type of conversation that you might hear in town, actually. And, there was no doubt. But the more that came out, and I'll tell you when it happened, it was the Paradise Lost movie. When it came out in 96.
Yes.
And it was, I didn't have HBO at that time. We had cable, but we didn't have HBO. And I remember, getting the tape. It had gotten passed to my grandma. She didn't have HBO either. She got it taped from someone, and she was watching it, and then I watched it. And I still remember it because it's very hard to forget when you see it. They go through the crime scene photos. I had never seen any of this stuff. And it's searing, sticks in your mind. But that is what kind of got the movement going to get them out of jail. And again, I kind of turned into, these guys were railroaded. And, the Miss Kelly confession, they interviewed him for I don't even know how many hours and stuff like that. So I just,
so you have to kind of watch out for the fictional aspects of the case.
Well, tell us, that's what I'm saying. I want to. So now my position is I do think that they were kind of railroaded, but a little bit at least. And
I don't think they were railroaded at all.
Okay, all right. Well, but I'm still not sure they didn't do it either. So that was my other part of it. But yeah, go ahead and give your thesis.
Thing. Do you know that Jesse Miss Kelly confessed after being found guilty multiple times on audio?
No, I did not know that actually.
Okay, well, that's a very important fact. Because after he was found guilty, they were tried separately. So there were 2 cases. It involved 24 jurors. So Miss Kelly,
they tried him first, right?
Correct. And then they tried the other 2. There's something to do with the evidence that was being used. You couldn't try all three together, so they bifurcated the court trial. But after Miss Kelly got convicted by 12 people in a jury, he was being taken to the jail. He confessed that they did it to the two cops that were in the car driving him to somewhere in Jonesboro where the trials took place.
Yeah, they did it in a separate jurisdiction because they said they couldn't get a fair trial in Crittenden County, which is where West Memphis is. But yeah, go ahead.
They probably couldn't. I mean, I think honestly,
I think that was the right.
A lot of people
No,
they
dude, they could not have gotten a fair trial in West Memphis. That would be absolutely true. Like, it's hard to even convey the level of hatred towards these people. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's justified. I mean, Eccles was already under probation. He had already been arrested, kind of taking over. He was arrested in an abandoned trailer. And he had already had a record, and he'd threatened people. He'd been in 3 mental institutions. So he was in 2 mental institutions, or two times in a mental institution in Arkansas, and another all the way in Oregon. He was thrown into a mental. So the guy has have you heard of the 500-page exhibit about his mental health issues?
I have heard a little bit about that, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not as well versed in it as you, certainly. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm here. I'm going to teach you about it. Because
please do, yeah. That's
that 500-page. Let me listen.
Go ahead.
500 pages was compiled by his defense team for his capital punishment appeal, and that was compiled and say this guy may not actually have been sane at trial, and it was actually by another external psychiatrist from California who said that he was unfit at trial. Now they made that argument. So that 500 pages is known as Exhibit 500, and I suggest people read through it because you're going to see a person who, in my opinion, shows that he's very capable of committing this crime, that he wasn't railroaded, that he wasn't wearing black, that he wasn't into heavy metal, but was into all kinds of other stuff. So that's very important. Then we can go back to the Miss Kelly statements, the Miss Kelly confessions post-conviction that are recorded where he's saying they did it in front of his own attorney. So his attorney is saying in this audio, Jesse, don't confess. And he said, I want something done about it, Jesse said. And so he tells the story over again. So he's confessed over like 6 times to doing it over and over again. There wasn't just one so-called confession. And there's a lot of misinformation surrounding the original confession because the police went to his house and asked for permission from his father to be taken in to the police station where he confessed.
All right, now,
and that's also recorded.
Now let me go through these. There's a few super chats as well. We're gonna take callers. Again, I used to be so well versed on this. I'm not gonna lie. It's not as sharp as it used to be. And I guess this to me the evolution of it though, to where now if you go to West Memphis. It's not the same. It's not like 90% they did it, it's a lot different. Actually, I would say it was probably more like 99.9% back in 93. I don't know anybody who said they didn't do it besides like their family members or whatever. Like literally, I can't think of anybody who went to bat for these guys. Yeah.
It's important that you say that too, because it's a slow process using PR propaganda. They actually raised so much money, between $10 and $20 million. Nobody knows the true sum. But all of these Hollywood figures who supported them and got this great appellate attorney really changed the public opinion. And they were all kinds of people saying that they're innocent. But if you look at the actual facts and evidence over the whole time, that I think it conclusively shows, based upon the fact that they're guilty and still under probation until 2021, they're still under probation. Why?
Now, let me ask you this. The satanic panic, so to speak, aspect or whatever, I think that's a harsh term that they're using to dismiss it or whatever. I don't.
It's a loaded term.
Well, I will say that I was fairly dismissive of that too when they went through, and the way it's framed in the movies. It's like, oh, they use this to railroad these guys and satanic panic. And, oh, it's just this southern town, which I didn't like necessarily the way they framed West Memphis. But, these southerners, they don't know what's going on. They're crazed about the devil and, they don't read down there or whatever. And, of course, they got
the Hollywood,
Yeah. But that's
right,
what they...
Right wing, flyover, conservative, you're all hillbillies.
That's
drinking
literally...
moonshine,
yeah.
And literally racists and KKK members, when the population of west of Memphis was substantially African American, is my understanding.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, it's like 60 to 70%.
That's what they meant by it.
But yeah, let me ask you this. What about this satanic shit? You said how it relates to the West Memphis 3, right? Like, was there some real satanic shit involved?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to read my book because I detail all the facts that were compiled by the police, talking to all these variety of people. But these guys used to go out to an old cotton gin called Stonehenge. Are you familiar with that, Ralph? Does that ring a bell?
Wait,
say
that part again, because somebody pinged me on Twitter. Say that last bit again. Stonehenge. I heard that part.
There was an old cotton gin they used to call Stonehenge. It was like, do you remember that?
I mean, I don't remember it, but I don't remember it from when I was 8, but I know it now. Yeah, I knew it later on. Yeah.
But it's somewhere there that they used to have, and they decorated with a bunch of downward-facing pentagrams, and there was all this stuff there, and they were supposedly eating dogs and sacrificing dogs, and that was the testimony of Jesse Miskelly. So these guys were into some heavy-duty stuff, and even Eccles himself said he licked blood. He says that on a video, and you can see it on my YouTube channel, William Ramsey Investigates. You can see all my videos that I've researched that. But Aleister Crowley was this occultist who lived in 1875. He died in 1947, and he left this compilation of magical workings. And he became the head of a bunch of secret societies. He actually became the head of something called the Ordo Templi Orientis, which is a German secret society, and became its head in the 1920s until his death in 1947 in Hastings in England. But he also started something in the AA. Well, if you read through some of the information in my book, Damien Eccles, while he was in jail, was a member of the OTO and actually had a library named after him in the OTO chapter in Arkansas. And he recently stated that he was a member of the AA. So he was in 2 of these magical fraternities. The AA is very original and unique in the fact that to be a member, you reach out to another member and he becomes your guide to teach you everything about that system. And that's it. That's the only joining. So it's just an international body that really doesn't meet anywhere other than somebody who is a mentor and somebody who's a master. And so Damien Eccles was part of that. And it gets even deeper. If you look at all the tattoos of Damien Eccles and all of his associations, you're talking about, people like Genesis P. Orge. I don't know if you've heard of his name. He was the head of the Temple of Psychic Youth. But Damien Eccles was in a movie with him called IRL. And they were in a kind of pawn shop, and he was holding a gun. And some people said that was a violation of his probation because he's not supposed to have weapons. But it just goes very deep. And there's a very interesting statement by a guy by the name of Alvis Clem Bly, who was brought into the police. And they said these guys had magical books, that they were in a cult. And the police documents, and in the police documents, show that these police officers were trying to ascertain who was in this group and who was in this cult group. And so there's a lot of very sketchy stuff involved with that. And Damien Eccles had a downward-facing pentagram tattooed on his chest. Like he literally had these brutal, homemade tattoos.
And I want to say that one of the reasons that the town was so on edge is because you kind of alluded to that there. The police wanted to know who else was involved as well. And so, if you accept that they did the murders, and so they're like, there's going to be another murder. Like they're going to try to do something else. Like there's still a fucking psychotic devil worshiping cult out there. And we just caught a few of them. Yeah.
Right. Well, good point. Because in my opinion, there were others involved at the scene, that it was a setup, and that other people, because the night of the murders, if you look through a lot of these documents, there was somebody he was known as the Bojangles man, who showed up at a restaurant close to the scene of the crime.
It was at Bojangles, actually, I believe, as the restaurant.
They called him They called him the Bojangles man. He was black. He showed up in the bathroom, and he was covered in blood and excrement. And he stayed in the background. And they called the police, and they hadn't found the bodies of the kids. So the children were found the next day in a drainage ditch out of the place called Robin Hood Hills. So, but the night before, the cops went and said, "What's this weird guy doing with blood in our bathroom?" And there was also a report of a strange person who took a taxi ride for like 400 miles out of West Memphis. Like he just wanted to get out, and the taxi was like, "That was the longest ride I've ever taken." And the guy,
there was a lot of strange shit like that, William. That's crazy. That just doesn't, I don't know. I think
all kinds of statements.
Yeah.
Look, there were statements of people. There used to be like an apartment building across the way, and people who were quizzed at the apartment said people were going in and out of this forest. Some people had black cloaks. They thought they heard chanting. There was all kinds of rumors and all kinds of things going on. And Eccles and his two cohorts, Baldwin and Miss Kelly, were seen walking around, like acting like druids. They had these long staves they would walk around with. And they never drove, so they were always walking around to and fro around West Memphis and through different parts. There was a huge trailer park at Lakeshore.
They stood at Lakeshore. I know exactly where Lakeshore is, of course. It's right when you go into Marion, right there underneath the overpass. Yeah. That's basically when you're going into Marion. No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, Eccles lied about stuff because he used to live in an apartment right across from the Robin Hood Hills, so he was very well acquainted with that. You could look out of his apartment complex, which no longer exists, and see that area where the kids died. And it's an important tie-in to Crowley because Crowley wrote in Magic and Theory and Practice his probably most seminal or most important and well-referenced work on magic, that he writes about human sacrifice in multiple places, but he said the ideal human sacrifice is a young child around the age of 8. And who dies in these things is a young child 8 who are rich, in my opinion, ritually tied up. Because they were tied.
They were.
They were tied and drowned.
Binding. Yeah.
It's very important to understand that they were alive before they were drowned.
Now, by the way, I just want to say this. I don't think I fully explained. I just assumed maybe that people knew about the West Memphis Three. The West Memphis Three are the three guys, Damian Eccles, Jesse Miss Kelly, and Baldwin, Stephen Baldwin, I think. Those are the three guys who got convicted for the murder, but those are the West Memphis Three. But they killed, they were alleged to have killed 3 little boys, and they were found bind and tied, and basically they've been drowned. He's about to go through that part, but I just assume people know it was a triple homicide of 3 small children.
So they were killed all at once. It wasn't like one after the other.
No, they were killed at the same. They were rounded up and killed together. They watched each other die, basically. Yeah.
Right in the evening, right, and one died of the most horrific thing, which they showed at the trial, is that his penis and his genitals was degloved. So that was missing, and he bled out. So one died by bleeding out, and the other 2 were drowned.
Yeah, and they show that in the HBO movie, and I'll never forget seeing that. Yeah, because they don't really warn you either. It's not something you'll forget. But yeah, go ahead.
And one was like stabbed in the face, and it's really
the reason I wanted to put that out there is I wasn't sure that some of the audience actually knew what we were saying here. But yeah, anyway, go ahead and finish up your thoughts there. We're going to take some callers too, and I'll read these super chats.
Well, you can just go. I mean, my book, I detail it on my YouTube channel, William Ramsey Investigates. I have tons of videos about all different aspects of this case that a lot of people aren't talking about. A lot of people conveniently ignore, and it's a really bad way to look at the case by just looking at those biased documentaries on HBO that were not I don't think that they had any integrity to trying to tell the factual approach of looking at what happened, what led up to May 5th, 1993, and then the arrest on June 3rd, 1993 of all 3, and really the trials and what was at trial and what was said at trial. The fact that it was appealed, there was this appellate process, that it went to the Supreme Court of Arkansas, and they affirmed the lower court. So these guys got due process. So all of these kind of rumors and innuendos that it was a kangaroo court full of like boss hog, moonshine swilling racists. It's not fair. It's really not fair.
That's how they portrayed it. I'm not gonna lie. Now, again, I'm not the one to take up the other side. There are people who very staunchly would disagree with you. And again, I don't know. I'm just having a chat about
most people disagree with me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not necessarily saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying I don't for sure. I'll tell you my evolution was when I was a kid, of course. Round them, take them away. These people are sick. I was scared, honestly. I mean, it was a scary situation, really. And it was all everybody talked about for like a year straight. So yeah, that part. And then as I got older, I was like, all right, these guys are fucked over. Basically, it took me a while to get there. That's where I got to. And then I remember I didn't really think it until right around the time, maybe like right when they were getting out. And I was thinking, who else did? I don't know. This doesn't really make any sense.
Why haven't they caught another? Yeah. Why haven't they caught another suspect?
Yeah, why haven't they caught another suspect? Why isn't I haven't really seen anything else like this happen either in the area? Or did they just one-off something like that? That's not usually how it goes. I don't know. There was just it. And again, I'm not saying they did it either. But I started to say, well, maybe I kind of rushed into the whole they didn't do it 100% thing, trying to be cool or whatever. And now I'm kind of like undecided, honestly, and maybe that's a pussy way to be, but
now,
yeah.
Can I ask this? Do you think that these guys? Obviously, you think they did it, but do you think that the elites or the powerful people or the Hollywood pedos, they jumped in because they believed that this?
Good question.
They believed it was a good thing to do, or do you think they jumped in because they're Satanists and they're pedos and they're evil people and they wanted to protect some of their own?
Honestly, in all of the interviews I've done on this subject, and I'm close to 50 hour-long interviews, that's one of the best questions I've ever heard. And no, I'm serious.
It was good. Joking. Even midway through, I knew where it was going. I said, that's a good question. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think it's the latter. I think you're on the latter part of that is the answer, not the former.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I lean to.
Let me follow up on this. These are the people in Hollywood who supported Damien Eccles, Johnny Depp, Henry Rollins, Margaret Cho,
Eddie Vedder.
Eddie Vedder. And go look in each one of those individually. Go look into Johnny Depp. Go look into his background in the movies he's been in, and the hand signs and the dates and the times and all that stuff. Go look at him. Go look at Henry Rollins with the smiley face on his forearm. Go look at
Henry Rollins is a fucking Satanist through and through.
Go look at all these people. Go look at them all. And you probably will have a tough time sleeping if you actually can put the true pieces of the puzzle together. Not the fiction, not the PR, not the Hollywood spin.
Santeria said, excellent episode tonight. Thank you. That's very kind. I know we don't really talk about true crime stuff. Somebody said this. Somebody said this was because it's me that's hosting the show and I'm from West Memphis. Yeah, that is the reason. But still, that's okay. All right, now let's keep going. Cooper says, oh, wait, I read that already. Hold on. Let me see where I'm at. D-Live, so kind to skip around and leave me where I wasn't before. I really appreciate that. Hoboken Slough says James Alsop should shut his lying mouth. What he said. I missed that earlier, so shout out to Hoboken Slav. D-Live's acting up on the actual dashboard, so I had to pop out the chat. Oh, long story. I won't bore you with it. Nurax says, I read that. Hold on, let's keep going.
The little tool I'm using seems to be working just fine.
No, god damn it. Link it again. Fuck. It never works right for me, or it'll work right and then it just breaks out of nowhere. But it's more stable than this. Okay, sorry. I'll calm down. Let's see. Helpful friend. I read that. Pensive Cowboy says, Ralph, don't say it even though it would be cool. N. Super Sasha X says, Thonga is a coward. Bibble, stop with the statues.
No.
Max Hall says, how's Vimeo on free speech? What would you say to that, Mr. Ramsey?
They've been the best that I've experienced, considering all the stuff I've gone through on YouTube and Facebook and all these other places. I mean, my web channel on YouTube, I barely even put stuff up there anymore because they just got rid of all of the links. All of the links that people had to my videos all got stripped, and then they just stopped counting. It's incredible. They just put me into some kind of weird kind of netherworld jail cell. Yeah.
You're preaching to the choir here. Obviously, we're not broadcasting. We're emanating from DLive.tv/The Ralph Retort. Now, there is a guy who mirrors our stuff, and he does other stuff on his own over on Killstream Uncut, but we're not allowed to have our own ownership of a YouTube channel, and it's sad because, of course, that's where we wanted to be, but they didn't want us. They threw us out in the streets cold without even a meal or a bus ticket. They just
You're not alone, man.
Yeah, it's sad. And
the worst, I mean, it's almost better. Yeah, it's almost better to be formally exiled from YouTube as opposed to not knowing that they're throttling you down to the lowest level.
I think
because
so.
For me, it took a while to figure it out. I can tell you this. That they're totally subjective and biased because unknown to the higher ups there, I have two channels where I post the same stuff. And one channel it gets blocked or demonetized, and the other it doesn't.
It's really strange. That's another thing. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. Like they'll hit you for one thing one day, and then they don't hit it for you the next, and then this is cool, but now that's not cool. It's just really weird, and it's playing with people's lives. And I saw somebody today. I didn't even know the creator. I didn't know the guy, but he said I just got demonetized. He was some like Christian comedian or whatever. I forgot his name. I'm not trying to down him or anything. I just didn't know him. And he said, I just got demonetized on YouTube. This is my main source of income. And they just demonetized me. No rhyme, no reason, no way to gain it back. I think somebody asked Joe Rogan this or asked Jack Dorsey this on Joe Rogan. Of course, Jack Dorsey never fucking followed up on it. But they said, okay, so somebody who's kicked off these platforms, or they're demonetized and, they're out in the gulag or whatever, you fucked up their life. Why is there no way to climb back out of that hellhole either? Like, you're throwing people out, and I don't know, man. This is just fucked up. And there's no way back either.
My advice to anybody is it's a terrible place to be, YouTube. Unless you do like videos or, ridiculous.
If you're doing gaming stuff, like just straight gaming stuff, you'll probably be good. Yeah. If you're doing like just sugary mainstream stuff, you'll probably be good. If you're a left winger, just pushing out propaganda, you'll probably be good. Other than that, you're playing with your livelihood, and I know YouTube's got a huge base. It's like the number 2 website in the world, and app. Everybody has YouTube and stuff. But for people like us, I think it actually was good that we got kicked off like that, because it got us focused more on other. I don't
even swear on any of my things. They're just fact based, and I have interviews and nothing, man. No monetization.
I mean, you seem like a pretty straight dude, right? Like you're not. I don't expect you to be dropping a bunch of F-bombs, or whatever. I mean, we do here because that's what we do. But yeah.
But I mean, I'm interviewing like current authors and things like that. It's basically almost academic in a lot of ways, but nope, they will not. They do not think it's good for advertisers.
Oh, they wanted me to show this off. This was actually somebody bought me a tittygram. Speaking of off-color content, tittygram. Now I didn't pay for this. Somebody else did, because I was saying that they had bought Rand one or something, bought somebody else one, and then I was like, why don't I have a tittygram? And so they bought me one. Now her tits are really nice. They did point out she does have some veiny hands, I have to say. But she might just be one of those chicks who works out like a lot or whatever, or she might be old. I don't know, but her tits look really nice either way. So, which was the point of the tittygram, right? It wasn't handgram. So there they are. Can't abort the retort. There they go. And let's see. Let me read the rest of these, and we'll take in some callers. We got taken off track by titties. It's happened to the best of us, ladies and gentlemen. It can definitely sidetrack you. Greg Anderson TKF says show it off, and it was that. He was super chatted for me to do that, actually. Johnny J says, what? William Ramsey on the Killstream? Unreal. I love this guy's work on the West Memphis 3, and then he says guilty. Well, I'm from West Memphis. That's why I brought him on. Somebody actually suggested for you to come on, sir. We had an open, I just said, hey, if you want somebody to come on, just super chat, whatever. Hit me on Twitter, hit the secretary, Killstream Sec over on Twitter. And you were suggested, and so we hit you up. And then, I'd seen that you'd done some work about the West Memphis 3. And of course, I wanted to talk about that. All right, let's see. Faith says, Ralph was the real murderer all along. That is not true. Although if I had done that as an 8-year-old, that would be pretty impressive, just from a technical, like just the logistical standpoint. That would be really impressive. Now the actual heinous murders and stuff like that wouldn't be impressive. But Johnny J says, and his work on Smiley Face Killer and Crowley, awesome guest, watch his movies. Now let me ask you about the Smiley Face Killer, because I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Well, it's got that kind of name by 2 guys who investigated the disappearance and water deaths of young college-age men. The 2 guys were Gilbertson and Gannon. Gilbertson is a criminal professor in Minneapolis, and Gannon was a detective in New York, and they noticed these similarities where these young men were being found, and close to where they were being found, there oftentimes was this smiley face symbol. So this phenomenon got the name the Smiley Face Killers. And so I've done 2 videos or 2 documentaries about that subject on my Vimeo page. The first one is the Smiley Face Killers, Who is Abducting, Torturing, and Killing College-Age Men in the U.S. and U.K. And the second one is Smiley Face Killers Volume 2, The Global Slaughter Continues. And they're reasonably priced, good pandemic pricing, $5 each if you want to watch.
Pandemic pricing, alliteration, sir. It never gets old. Go ahead.
But it's 5 hours of material, but you show that there's literally hundreds of men, younger college-age men in the U.S., U.K., and all around the world who are out at night drinking. They either get separated from their friends or literally drugged by GHB or Rohypnol, get abducted, are kept somewhere for a time, and then deposited in water. And the police have called those accidental drownings. And in certain cases, those so-called accidental drownings happen 40 days after they were missing. So I go in and show all of these shortcomings in these police investigations all over the country. And they actually just busted this guy earlier this year. His name was Katunsky, outside of Lansing, Michigan. Literally abducted a dude by the name of Kevin Bacon and kept him in a dungeon and ate his testicles.
What?
Yep. Katunsky, look him up. Katunski out of Michigan. And I suspect he's probably involved in some of these other smiley face deaths, but there's no proof of that. I just think that it was probably not a first time off. But my speculation in my original film, which came out in 2017, was that there's a dungeon. These people are involved in heavy duty S&M. They're into men. And that's why all of these kids, young people who are getting abducted, typically are like athletic, good looking, young. There's never anybody obese. So that's the real pattern of all this. And Gilbertson and Gannon have pointed that out. And I show them on Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil, these guys, so they've been around. They were really the original authors of the book. That's probably the most important book to read about it, which is Case Studies in Forensic Drowning, where they show that these guys have been drugged. And one of their victims was frozen. So somebody had taken the body and frozen it to confuse the police and then throw it in the water so that they could throw off the time of like somebody decaying. But there's been really important cases that are very easy to show that something else was involved in mere drowning. One is by a guy by the name of Dakota James in Pittsburgh. And fairly recently, 2018, I think, is when he died. He was missing for 40 days. He was found in the Ohio River, but he hadn't decomposed. His skin was actually still white. Like if he was in the water for 40 days, his body would have been in really bad shape. These cases are really happening, and it's really a warning to, I'm an older guy, I'm over 50, but to younger people right now, that because of the pandemic, people aren't out at bars, but before it can get very dangerous, not just for women, but for men as well.
Hey, you know what? I knew you were a little bit older, but you sound younger. I don't know why that's weird, but he does. He sounds like you got some 51. Vigor. You got some vigor though. Like I was listening to your voice, like he doesn't sound like. Anyway, go ahead, Bibble. Sorry, I cut you off to say that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the way that I kind of research, I'm a member of the State Bar of California. I am an attorney, so I do put that kind of like, let's look at all the facts, look at the timeline, let's see what's really happening, and is it different than these other stories? And I think that the Smiley Face Killers is probably one of the most important true crime stories that hasn't been told in the history of true crime. Like literally somebody is there are active serial killers stalking and murdering men in dungeons with a kind of ease where they've confused the police and have been doing it for decades. And I think they're networked through the dark web. I think that they're probably talking to each other about their kills through different terms and different ways. And the police have not been able to keep him. And Katunsky, this guy who was busted in 2020, was actually the first one. And it's pretty fascinating. And I have to give credit to the police in Michigan because they were really smart. I even remember the police chief's name was Kaiser, because when they went to his house, they looked around and they somehow knew that there was a secret room in the basement. Like they found his dungeon, and that's where they found the body. And it's interesting too, because Kevin Bacon, the real Kevin Bacon actor, was kind of involved in this disappearance of this victim, Kevin Bacon.
Wait, how is he involved? Hold on.
Yeah, no, you got to check this out. You got it on my Smiley Face Killers Volume 2 movie where Kevin Bacon's in there, and also this guy Jeffree Star. Do you know who Jeffree Star is?
Yeah, I do actually. The makeup guy. Yeah.
They were both kind of following because the victim was, I don't know, far left hair dyeing type, one of these characters. So, and he was on, and there's a real tie between these victims and Grindr. So these guys go on Grindr, and they walk into a trap. And all these guys, Dakota James and Joey LaBute out of Columbus, Ohio. I don't know where you guys are located.
I'm in Richmond, Virginia. They don't tell where they're at because they're secretive, but I'm in Richmond, Virginia myself.
But there's been cases in D.C., New York, Florida, Columbus, Ohio, Pittsburgh, PA, a lot in Michigan, and really just all over the place. So it's a really crazy story. Smiley face killers.
Let me ask you this about Satanism in general, if you don't mind. So there's a theory that all this stuff that they do is kind of where they have to get your engagement. It's almost like a magic trick, like with Epstein, where he, they could have just made him disappear, right? They could have just completely made him disappear and said, oh, he managed to escape the country. We'll never see him again. And he'd be in a ditch like Jimmy Hoffa or some shit. But what they do is they put him in a room. It's like a magic trick. They put him in a room where he's supposed to be guarded 24 hours a day. All the cameras go out. All the guards fall asleep. He ends up dead. And then they say, well, that's that. And it's like by doing this, they kind of make you complicit in it. So that way people won't riot, because if they had just done a Jimmy Hoffa thing, maybe it would spark something in people. But because they do this and they tell you, yes, we've done it, essentially. I mean, they've all but told, yes, we've killed this person. You are less likely to do something about it. Do you think that's like part of their spirit cooking shit?
I think so. I think in part, absolutely. And I do think Epstein had to die. I don't think he could go to trial. And he was actually putting up a vigorous defense. He had really good attorneys. This one guy, Reed Weingarten, like a serious criminal defense attorney. I think he was going to fight it. And he was probably pulling in his chits. And I think people were nervous then. I think they're nervous about Ghislaine Maxwell as well. And there's some occultism involved in Jeffrey Epstein. Like, he had a statue of Pan. Somebody saw in Ghislaine Maxwell's closet like a black cloak. I mean, God knows what they're doing. I know she's hanging out with Kevin Spacey, who is hyper sketchy if you look at his stuff.
Yeah.
They're both sitting on like a throne in one of the Queen's palaces. I mean, it's a real insult to the King and Queen in England. I mean, I don't know why Prince Andrew is doing that, but these guys are involved in all kinds of depravity and child trafficking and probably arms trafficking, organ trafficking, but there's definitely a thing of occultism there, man. There's definitely weird things on that island. That weird blue and gold temple had a...
Dude, we showed that on the show. It's crazy as fuck, man. Like, something's going on there. They did all kinds of rituals there. There's no doubt in my mind. Like, I'm usually not even that guy that goes into the devil worshiping shit or whatever. They were doing some satanic shit down there. There's no doubt in my mind. Right?
On certain dates. And I think, Ralph, that I saw on that temple before it got taken apart, there was a statue of Horus, of like the Egyptian god Horus, the hawk-headed god. So that's a real indicator of a knowledgeable occultist that goes back to original like Masonry and kind of Crowleyism too.
All right. Now, let me take some...
There's real problems there.
Let me get some callers in here. We'll take a few callers. We have some other stuff. We still haven't covered let me look at the list here. Alsop in America First. We talked about it a little bit. Basically, he wrote a big hit piece against America First and kind of tried to tie them in with Milo and stuff yesterday. And Milo's going to be on the show on Monday. He seems eager to respond. So we'll have that for you. And we'll talk about the article and some other things. We'll take calls on that if people want to talk about that too. We have a lot of news, and I have stories that have been piling up since Monday, Bibble, and they keep piling up, and they just keep getting rotated over to the next day. And I'll say, I'll hit this up tomorrow. No big deal. Whatever. That's good. It'll be left over for tomorrow. Yeah. And the Ghislaine, whatever the fuck her name is, the Maxwell Reddit thing. Yeah. I have all that queued up too. I didn't even put that in the title because I forgot. But yeah, that was another big beat that we have to do here as well. All right,
but it might not be Ghislaine Maxwell, and the person that I think it is might shock the chat.
Now, exactly. Now
Oh.
we'll talk about that too. Now let's take some calls though. Great guests. Also, I love the guests that we've had this
thank you
week.
so much for coming on.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
thanks
Because
for
I think I'm a crazy person when I
No.
talk about Satanism and stuff.
No, you know what? When I booked this guy, I was thinking this would be a good guest. Bill will enjoy this guest too. I'm dead serious.
I do.
I'm dead serious. When I booked it, I was like, yeah, this will be a good one for Bibble.
Well, the smiley face killers were theorized for a long time because, and what a lot of people think is that they are hyper intelligent serial killers. Because when you look at serial killers, almost all of them drop out of college. Almost all of them have these certain patterns that they follow, but they're all supposedly intelligent. But the idea is, what if there are serial killers who don't drop out of college, who maybe don't have as much prefrontal lobe damage, where they can control some of their actions, and they don't necessarily become like the Madoffs of the world, but they just become highly effective serial killers. And so, yeah, I mean, I had heard about
point. One of the people a lot of people don't know about, who I kind of focused on as being what you just described, was a guy by the name of Peter Christopherson out of the UK, whose dad was a college professor. And this guy was super smart, but he would actually study forensic manuals on his spare time. Like, he was studying post-collegiate forensic manuals, trying to figure out how to do things. And I think that that's how they came into this whole MO regarding the smiley face killers, is that they could commit killings and get away with it, knowing the forensics of a water death, where somebody would just go, oh, it was just a drowning. So he was a very smart guy, but he also directed this video called Broken that was for Trent Reznor. And I feature it on the cover of my first documentary. But the MO of the smiley face killers is the same pattern of what I think is happening in Broken, where a young man they're driving around, a young man is abducted, put in a dungeon, tortured. And some of these deaths do have the elements of torture. If they actually pull some of these autopsies, they're clearly been tortured. And that's really one of the oversights of the smiley face killers, is that one of the reasons of putting in the water is to allay a proper autopsy or investigation. If the police are too lazy or slovenly, they'll just bag the person and say it was a drowning. But yeah, this guy's really intelligent. Peter Christopherson, and get this, he was part of a couple bands. So he's traveling from city to city constantly. And it's really the perfect cover. Yeah. No, it's the perfect cover for a multi-jurisdictional killer. I'm not saying that he was, but you got to follow this guy. And a Crowley lover, no less, high-end occultist, homosexual, really, they're out there, just like this guy Kentunsky I was telling you about. So you can see about that in the smiley face.
Where can we find these documentaries of yours?
They're all on Vimeo. So the title of that one is The Smiley Face Killers. Well, there's 1 and 2. I just did a recent one this year as a follow-up. But if you type in vimeo.com/on-demand/smiley face, SMILEY FACE, you'll see the original Smiley Face Killers documentary that I did in 2017.
Nice.
And by the way, Bibble, I think you might should do a show with him too. That would be good for you guys to go into. I mean, a little bit more about this true crime stuff than I do. That might be a good show as well. On a Sunday, I know you do your shows on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I like me. I like scary stories, and the scariest shit is what people actually do, not this crazy.
Yeah. The Smiley Face Killers is really scary because even if you look at Dakota James, there's a really good article about his death in the Daily Beast by an author by the name of Nicole Wisensee Egan, EGAN, about Dakota James, because it's the most terrifying thing. I think the kid was targeted. Like, before he was abducted, somebody did like a pre-trial. Like they invited him somewhere with a black SUV. That's a crazy story. And he was like, he woke up from something being drugged, saying, I don't know where I am. He called his friend, can you come pick me up? It's crazy. You got to read that article. Type in Dakota James, Daily Beast, EGAN, Egan, and read that story about Dakota James, because I cover him in the Smiley Face Killer. So really chilling true crime.
All right, let me read these. We'll take a couple callers. We'll get out of here. Let's see. Well, we'll get the guests out of here. We still have some other stuff to cover. Let me see what I have here. Cooper says, does Crawley worship Cain, the guy who killed Abel?
I didn't see that in his writings. I've had the misfortune of reading most of the stuff that he's written. He was a voluminous writer. And what he said in 1904 is that the most important event happened to him where some being called Aiwaz, A-I-W-A-Z, intoned behind his back, and he wrote a book called the Book of the Law. It was on 3 sections. And one of the gods that supposedly talked to him was Horus, right? So we talked about Horus earlier. So the Horus is like the hawk-headed god. But that was really who he was talking to. But he had all kinds of weird extra-dimensional, I would call them extra-dimensional. Somebody would probably call them extraterrestrial. But alien-like or demon-like encounters all through his life with these beings. And he actually drew one that looked exactly like a gray alien in 1918 after he did something called the Alamantra working. And he used to actually draw these things when he would go out in the astral plane and come back and write them down. It was really crazy, man. He was really a sorcerer, magician. I mean, and that a lot of these people, because he never really worked and had an inheritance, he was able to really focus on occultism his whole life and compile stuff. And that's why so many modern magicians look back to him as kind of like a foundational, like you go through Crowley and then build on it, like Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard loved Aleister Crowley. He was always reading his stuff. And the Process Church. I mean, you can just go through all these people who, Kenneth Anger, and I cover that in Children of the Beast, but it's really a fascinating thing. But he does admit, if you read my book, Prophet of Evil, he basically admits that Aiwass is Satan. He calls Aiwass Satan, and that's my God, and that's my Lucifer. So he was not like a kind of caricature of a Satanist like LaVey or something like that, like a goateed, bald-headed person, although Crowley was bald later on in his life. He was far too intelligent to engage in that kind of sloppiness. He shielded himself and blinded a lot of his writings. So once you understand the way that he would write in code, then you can figure out what he really meant. But the being Aiwass was one of these codes that he used. Aiwass is actually the Lord of the Air. And if people are familiar with the Bible, the devil is actually referred to as the Lord of the Power of the Air in the Bible. So you can kind of see these crossover similarities. And Crowley himself knew the Bible very well. He actually knew it. He was born into a really hardcore Christian sect, but he adopted all this stuff like the Beast and the Scarlet Women and from Revelation and adapted it into his new religion he called Thelema. It's really crazy.
It's like how Karanzan is the the abyss. That's another
right.
thing taken from Revelation.
Right. Well, that's a good point because he supposedly in the desert of Algeria invoked Karanzan, the Lord of the Abyss, and had some meeting with him with another guy by the name of Victor Newberg. So you kind of got to take what he's saying with a grain of salt. But like I said, like he's recording all of these extra dimensional contacts, from when he started really practicing magic in probably 1895, pretty much all the way up until 1940s.
All right, let me read this. Red Pill says, many of these celebs get lured into honeypots and lied to about the age. After they are compromised, many of them become so demoralized that they fuck kids because they can. Well, I don't know. But Red Pill says, Saturn is the god of Masons, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. He demands a blood sacrifice in exchange for worldly pleasures and insight.
That's not true.
Well, I mean, he paid me to read it. And then he says, this will not sound batshit crazy soon. Don't get stuck in the cube. Go ahead. You wanted to respond, though. Go ahead.
Well, it's fine. I know what he's referring to the cube of Saturn, but to say that the god of Christianity is Saturn is there's no reference point of that anywhere in the New Testament. I know that, Saturn is kind of like a representation of Satan, I guess. But I don't. Maybe at some elements of these fake Christian religions, like I don't know, some of these other things. But I think that the way it's written in the New Testament, there's no reference to Saturn at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from. But again, maybe he has some knowledge I'm not aware of, and he gave me $3, so I like that. I like that. He gave me $3, but so obviously he's very close. I don't know where he is on the spectrum or of knowledge and ideology, but he's so close to the truth. He's so close. $3 to the Ralph retort. I think that you're on the right path, sir. Life. Life in Hell says, great guess, Ralph. Could you ask William if he's ever read The Manson File by Nicholas Schreck or has looked into the Manson case?
I have. I'm aware of that, and I have looked into Manson. And really, one of my more, I think, an important aspect of the Manson family that's overlooked or not understood is the connection between Bobby Bouzoulet, Kenneth Anger, and Charles Manson. So Bobby Bouzoulet was arrested for the murder of Gary Inman, but Bobby Bouzoulet was the representation of Lucifer in Kenneth Anger's which one was it? Was Lucifer Rising? I think he was supposed to be in it, but then he got arrested. But he was in Invocation of My Demon Brother, and you can see the video of that. And Kenneth Anger flat out said he's a warlock, and he's also a Crowley follower, and was friends with all of these people who were associated with Jack Parsons and knew a lot of Crowley's followers. He was actually inducted by a guy by the name of Gerald York, who was a right-hand man of Crowley for a couple of years at least. So Manson himself was actually a clear in Scientology. So if you accept the statement of Hubbard's son that Hubbard himself was using black magic to create Scientology, you can say that in part Manson knew a lot about Scientology and also was associated with the process, which is an offshoot of Scientology, which is why some of the strange terms like the family, Manson family, and some of these other where you're God and Satan are exactly the same statements that these process heads, state. That man is Christ, Satan, God, all in one person. And so Manson, if you've ever seen the picture of Manson making this hands, like he knew hand gestures. He talked about Abraxas, this primeval god. Like Manson knew a lot. He was actually, kind of like a knowledgeable jailhouse kind of person where he learned, he was an autodidact in a lot of ways, but he seemed to have adapted a lot of these mind control techniques from Scientology.
I had never heard that in my life. I actually, the Manson stuff's fascinating to me. I didn't know that at all.
Bro,
What?
There was a statement in Bugliosi's Helter Skelter. There's a statement that two members of the process came to talk to him in jail, and that
no shit. I never read Helter Skelter, but I think they made a movie out of it or something based on it. I saw that when I was a kid because my parents, they watched old movies and stuff, so
it's
I saw
that. Best-selling true crime.
Of all time.
Best-selling true crime book of all time. Yep.
Yeah.
But
now go ahead, finish your story about the clear. Tell them about the clear because I cut you off. And by the way, there's a delay between us, so people thought that I'm like constantly speaking over you, but there is like a slight second and a half delay, I think, that's causing that. But anyway, go ahead.
So Hubbard kind of adapted this old secret society system where you advance through the grades, right? But what Hubbard did is made people pay for it, right? So you're paying. That's why Scientology got so rich.
That's why I was smart.
Well, he actually famously said, if you want to get rich, start your own religion. So he started his own religion. He basically flat out stated that. But what according to what Bugliosi's writing, that means Manson went to the very top and could not learn anything more from Scientology. So he had absorbed all of that information. So he knew all this stuff that Scientology teaches about getting what you want. I mean, it's supposedly black magic, over a period of time. Hubbard was right there with Parsons. They both did the Babylon working, right? I don't know if you've heard of that, but that was back in the desert and Mojave in 1947. And 1 year later, Hubbard starts Dianetics, 1948. Scientology starts 1950. And Hubbard believed he was the one who came after, mentioned in Crowley's Book of the Law. So he was following up on the work of Crowley after Crowley died in 1947.
And
it's an incredible timeline.
What do you think about the idea that Crowley kind of laid the groundwork for other spirits to come through or to confuse people into contacting spirits, that it was a direct link to things like the Seth material and stuff like that?
I don't fully know. I don't know that connection. I do know that one of the process guys was literally in contact with other entities. His name was Timothy Wilding, and he said that he knew Crowley. But I know that followers of Crowley knew how to I've learned about magic. They're definitely trying to contact entities. No joke. They are literally trying to contact extra dimensional entities like Crowley was. So as far as what's happening today, and there's weird correlations between like the alien mythos or the alien stories of extraterrestrials and the Crowley extra dimensionals. There's some overlaps and similarities. If you look at like that one book, Communion, whose author I can't remember, it's the same kind of demon kind of shape that Crowley drew, this gray alien.
Well,
so
it's like
Oh,
sorry. I was going to say, it's like the confluence of events of the Skinwalker Ranch.
Right. Well, it's interesting too because there's this event that takes place out in the desert. It's kind of like a meeting in the desert of all these alien or UFO phenomenons. And if you look at the guest list, there's all kinds of flat out stone cold occultists. These people who know, like Peter Levenda. Like, so what is Peter Levenda doing with all these other UFO aficionados? And it's kind of one of the things that I've learned is like, what are these people's backgrounds? Because Peter Levenda is, I mean, it's pretty much been confirmed that he was Simon, the writer of the Necronomicon. That's his nom de plume. That's his pseudonym.
All right, let me read through these. We're going to take a couple callers. Honestly, we could probably do like a 3 or 4 hour stream with you just talking about all these cases and stuff. Now, some of the cases you talked about, not the West Memphis 3, obviously I'm familiar with that, very familiar. Some of the other ones, Smiley Face, I don't know a lot about, but I used to watch before they called it true crime. It was just, Cold Case and all this shit on TV and stuff, and 2020 and all these programs. There was one on CBS too, not 60 Minutes, but the other one I can't remember. God damn it, the one they showed during the week. I can't remember the name of it now. But all this true crime shit, yeah, I grew up with all that shit too. Let's see. Johnny J says William is great. He pronounces his T so well. He's very well spoken, I have to say. And I'm not. I just talk a lot of shit though. That's how I make up for it. Seek and Destroy says, I can make Pay choke on something other than singing. All right, now wait a minute. That wasn't Pay first thing. Now, and that's rude to say in the second, but thank you for the super chat. Godzilla37 says, should have probably started with the stories back. You mean the backstory? Yeah, probably. Oh, he says, should have probably started another super chat. Started with the story's background. The internet is worldwide now. Well, yeah, I mean, the West Memphis 3 is a really famous case, but you're right. Technically, I should have set the scene and set it for everybody. But I kind of figured after it got going that if you really wanted to know, you would just pause it and fucking Google the case. But whatever. I finally did. We did do a reset during the middle and gave the details. The reason I did the reset, though, is because I wasn't fully... I wasn't confident that people realized just how grisly... This was one of the most grisly things you could imagine. 3 little boys abducted and taken away and carried away, and not even carried that far away though. Like they were still close to their homes with, right there in West Memphis, and they were murdered and they had to watch each other die. It's one of the most disgusting, heinous crimes you could ever think about in your life. Let's see. Never Forgetting Nassim says, don't care. Yeah, I've been seeing you post salty shit all night. I don't care about you posting in chat anymore either. So that'll be my answer to that. The Jolly Jihadi says, did I miss the Alsop story? No, you didn't, actually. What's coming up next? Fungarumples just resubbed for a month and is now on a 1-month sub streak. Pensive Cowboy says, sorry, Ralph, your tittygram came with a sausage. Keeper says, transagram, dope. Thank you. Flash says, now wait a minute. And then Flash says, not his fucking nuts, dude. Yeah, they did that. Yeah, it was, or whoever did that. I think it was multiple people, no matter what, whether you think it was, I don't think one person could have done that, really. Is that, you know what, that's a fair question. Just real quick, do you think one person could have actually done that?
No, because there were 3 boys, so how are you going to corral?
I don't know. You would have to be really crafty. I mean, I guess it's possible, but it would be really hard to do.
When they're talking about eating the nuts, I thought they meant the Smiley Face Killers one.
No, the rumor is that Jason. Yeah, the rumor. Well, at least the statement was. I think it was in the first Miss Kelly confession. Is that Jason Baldwin took the little boy's testicles and put them in his mouth?
Yeah, Jason Baldwin. I said Stephen Baldwin earlier. I mixed that up. Yeah, that is the allegation, and that's what was being. Man, I was a little kid, and that's what was being talked about in town. That they cut the kids' balls off basically and ate them. Yeah.
If you read through the police files and the statements made, they weren't in court, but the statements of people who live there, there was a statement that both Eccles and Baldwin were raping a 10-year-old boy, that they were both doing that at around the time. They were never prosecuted for it. Eccles would get in bushes and take pictures of young girls. They had a black briefcase that they kept pictures of people in and drugs. I mean, and take cameras. I mean, there was all kinds of malfeasance.
Yeah, and again, that's the reason I brought it up, because I wasn't really sure people understood just how heinous this was. And it was, I don't know. We could do, and we probably will have you back, actually. Not necessarily to talk about that. Talk about other stuff. Maybe a follow up on the West Memphis 3. It really was crazy. Maybe I should do something on it myself too. Just living through that. It's something. It's like a period. It's like an epoch in my life, basically. And I vividly remember everything around it and just how the town was panicked. And it's not a normal experience for a kid to just go to, normally, we're just out playing, I couldn't even walk across the street to my friend's house across the street. That's how, like right across the street. That's how paranoid it was. People were scared that their children were going to get abducted and murdered in a satanic ritual. And the town was operating like that for like 12 to 18 months. And it's just, I don't know how to express it any clearer than that. It was just.
That's how long it took to go. That's how long it took to go through the entire legal, process, because they didn't get convicted until 1994.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Oh, I remember as a kid seeing front page the Evening Times, which is the local newspaper there in West Memphis. Eccles, a sentence, death row, all that. Like, I remember that vividly. Let's see. Pits of Cowboy says, guest warning you to be careful on Grindr Bibble. Vic Rattlehead says, Alex Jones says people talk to aliens on Rogan. He said quite a few things on Rogan. Vic Rattlehead says, this is what he means. Oh, okay. Spicy One says, Aleister Crowley, Barbara Bush's father. Thoughts? I've never heard that
Possible.
theory. Really?
Possible, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, because I included that in. Yeah, no, for real.
No, Barbara Bush, the old Barbara Bush you're talking about, or the young one, like the old one, right?
The old one. Yeah, she's passed away.
Yeah,
George Bush Sr.
Yeah.
So her mom, they come from money. Her last name is Pierce. She was actually part of a huge banking family. But her mom used to, back in the day, people would go to France, right? And her mom was in France around the time that Crowley was in France. And so she came back with this person who looked like, go look at, put a picture of him side to side.
I'm going to have to Google this. Should I just do it now? Look, you know what? I'll Google it while we bring on the callers, because I've never heard this theory, and it's actually piqued my interest at this point. So I'll pull up side by side. Is it really that startling? Yeah. All right. I'm going to show it here in a minute. Let's see. Spicy One. I already read that. Let me check. There are a couple stream elements. Also, thank you for the massive support. The callers don't like it because it keeps delaying them getting on the show, but I like it because you supporting the show, and it helps me a lot, especially this week. Man, I hope you guys like the studio, dude. I did this for you. For me too, obviously, but I wanted it to look nice. I wanted it to be epic, Gator. That's what I wanted. And I think it is going to be epic this Friday. And we're kicking it off with a massive karaoke stream live July 10th, 9:30. It's going to be on podcast. Of course, shout out to the Podcast Gang. As always, there's a dedicated Podcast Gang. And we love them. Cooper says, oh, wait, I read that. Okay. Let me check back on, man. They got us bouncing around. We have like three different ways to support the live stream here while it's going on. So I have to keep up with them all. Back in the day, it was a little simpler. We had YouTube and I think, Stream Elements, and that was it. But now we got 2 or 3. That's what they've done to us. But it's okay. We have to adapt. You adapt or die, right? That's pretty much how it goes.
That's right.
Yeah, and you can sit here and cry about it, and we do. There are nights where we cry about it. But the next night it's like, all right, pick yourself up, let's go. What else you gonna do? Life in Hell says, great guest, Ralph. I read that already. Okay, sorry. Chaos X says, but thank you. Chaos X says, thanks for the follow today, Ralph. Yeah, I followed him, and I almost followed you a while back because I see you on Twitter and we interact. Really, the way I follow people on Twitter is, okay, if they're notable, whatever, they followed me, I follow them. Obviously, that's the clout thing. Of course, you have to do that. And then it's people that I interact with. It's not even like, it's not that you have to have thousands of followers. Just if you talk to me a lot on Twitter and I interact with you a lot, I always see you, sharing my posts, talking to me and stuff, sending me tweets, I'll follow you. And so Chaos X actually, I fucked up a tweet or something and he came in. Oh, he said it was bad form. He said it was bad form to end a sentence with 4, which it is bad form, by the way. And then I said unkindly, I'd almost followed him before because we'd interacted a lot. I said this unkindly. I feel like he was being unkind too, though, Gator. I said it's bad form to have 28 followers to him, which is the number of followers that he had. And then he said something, it was about quality, not quantity. And he said that and it cracked me up. And I said, you know what? I'm going to follow this motherfucker. So thank you, Chaos X. And I knew he was a viewer of the show too. So when he said that, I was like, yep, you got your follow. Thank you, sir. And appreciate you as well for the support. Thank you so much.
Got to pay respect to the guy who just BTFO'd you.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I got you. Red Pill says this. Your infinite light consciousness is trapped in a 3D reality, aka the cube. Gnostics are the only group who know how to escape. Jesus, Buddha, and Thoth all knew as well as enlightened beings. Jehovah is a human like God. Blood sacrifices, ? Doesn't add up. Then he says, those entities are called archons, by the way. Or archons, I guess. They can pop in and out of our 3D dimension. They exist in a dimension above ours. Ours is low vibrational energy / emotions. Wait, excuse me. Our low vibrational energy / emotions feed them good vibes only. Love you, Ralph. Thank you, man. I don't know much about what you're talking about. But I thank you for
this isn't really Ralph's forte.
Yeah, it's really not. When you're getting into low vibrational and stuff like that, that's just not my you know what my wheelhouse is, talking shit. And so when when you go into that, that's not really my wheelhouse. But I appreciate the support. You supported the show all night long. I don't think the guest agrees with you, but I still appreciate it. Now let's take a couple calls real quick, just because I said I was going to. We're gonna not take as many as I'd planned. But let's see here. Cripple Jesus, go. Cripple Jesus. Jesus, wake up. Oh my God. All right,
hold on, I'm gonna give him the call and fix roll because it's
God bless.
He's on his phone.
Oh, phone Discord. Discord, can you fix your fucking app, dude? Like, I'm so sick of the phone Discord fucking everything up. Why don't you guys do something but trying to fuck animals and shit?
Goddamn
fucking
Jesus, you're on,
degenerate furry moderators of Discord. Fucking fix your shit. Go ahead, sorry.
So, Ralph, I'm going to the casino this weekend, and I would like to take advice from the panel.
Okay.
You guys have any?
Well, I mean, I have some. I'll tell you, when I went to the casino, so I went to the casino the first time. Well, there's a dog track in West Memphis called Southland Greyhound Park, so I went there, but I don't really count that. Now, by the way, now Southland Greyhound Park is like a full fucking casino with it's basically awesome. But when I was growing up, it was just a dog track. And they passed a law, and they just barely got it through, allowing for electronic games of skill. And now it's pretty much a full casino. It's actually blowing the fuck out of the casinos down in Mississippi. They've put out of business. The casino in West Memphis is so fucking huge now, Southland Greyhound Park. By the way, they're going to change the name to just Southland now. I think they might actually get rid of the dog racing. They might not even have the dog racing anymore, but they've actually put out of business some of the casinos in Tunica. Anyway, when I went to the casinos in Tunica, what I was astonished with, it's free drinks. Like, it's free alcohol all throughout if you're gambling in the casinos in Tunica. I don't know how it is in your casino or where you're going, but it's free drinks. Now, you have to get beer because they will absolutely water down your free alcoholic drinks. If you ask for vodka and bourbon and all that shit, they're going to water it down. If you ask for a beer, my dad taught me this, actually. If you ask for a beer, they can't water it down. They just hand you the bottle, they pop the top and hand it to you. They can't water down the beer. So if they're giving free drinks, always take the beer. I don't like gambling very much. I mean, I like it, actually. I enjoy gambling. I don't like losing. and I get irrationally angry when I lose money in a bet. And so that's why I don't bet very much. So when I go to the casino, I usually have like a $40 to $60 limit. And so that's how I roll in the casino. Now, if you make money and you start winning, you can do whatever you want with that money. But I have I'm only going to lose a certain amount of money. Yeah, for sure.
Well, as far as the drinks, I don't have a fake ID. But I think if I weigh on the card voice pretty hard.
No, wait, how old are you? I thought you were how the fuck old are you?
No, I'm 19.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, if you put the voice in, I think they'll probably let you in.
And I'll definitely be getting stoned, so I'll be a high roller regardless of how much money I put in. And I'm actually planning on using my crippleness to get out of wearing a mask. So,
that's your medical exemption? So, by the way,
yeah,
I was walking into the store today and they said, "Oh, you have to wear a mask, unless you have a medical exemption." Crippled Jesus rolling up in his wheelchair with 20-inch rims on it and shit.
I feel like they're not gonna ask because that would be too awkward.
They won't even ask. Man, this guy's so sneaky. They won't even ask, and he knows it. What are you gonna bully the crippled guy? Put your fucking mask on. That's not gonna happen. It won't happen.
Yeah, and I'm going with 2 other people, and I encourage them to make up a disability too. So we'll see what they come up with.
Holy shit. Man, you're wild. Get out of here. Thank you for calling in, though. I appreciate it.
Have a good night, boys.
You too, buddy.
You too wild, man. All right. Let's take a couple callers. William Ramsey, great guest. Go ahead, Harewood Silvatici.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
I don't know about this. Hi. I don't know about this case. I did used to work with psychopaths. I worked in psychology in the UK. And we had something called the PCLR test, which was a psychopathy checklist revised test devised by Robert Hare in Canada. And it was very useful for people like serial killers. So I had a patient and I thought he was a psychopath. He wasn't tested. He came under a mental illness diagnosis and he was released. I said, I think he's a psychopath. I think he's dangerous. After I left, he was released and he went on to kill twice more. Now, if you've got someone like a serial killer, job description of a serial killer, then a psychopath is the ideal applicant. So I'm going to ask William is were these kids in the Memphis 3
West
case,
Memphis 3.
The West Memphis 3 case. I know they had a low IQ. That was when I think I briefly read about it. But were they given psychopath tests as well? Do you know if that was looked into? And do you know more about the sort of psychopathy in a wider context with this sort of killing?
Well, I think that when the psychiatrist tested there, you can find it online. I wish I could remember the psychiatrist's name offhand, but you can get his analysis of Damien Eccles it's for the capital murder appellate. So you'd have to look that up. It's on Callahan 8K. You can just type that into Google and find that. But I think he signed up for, before the murder took place, he signed up for disability. And on the disability, he listed himself as a sociopath. So he described himself as sociopathic. But I think that the most instructive thing is to see that. But I think that I don't know the totality of his test. You have to go back and look at all these different doctors who are making notes about him in Exhibit 500. And that's in my book. Certain excerpts are in my book, Abomination, but you can also read them in total online. It's 500 pages. That's how it got its name. So there is documentation by professionals in the court record for sure.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you calling in, man. I'm gonna have to. I have to move it. I have to boost it along. Thank you so much, though, man. I appreciate the support of the show too. Thank you so much. All right, let's keep going. We'll take a couple more calls. Trad Life, quickly, man. I'm gonna boost it along because I got to cover a couple more big topics. So go ahead, sir.
Elaine Maxwell did not kill herself.
Thank you. I agree with that. Life in Hell, lightning round. Go ahead. Hello, sir. And by the way, thank you, Patreon supporter, Dime Division level, actually. And I have the Patreon hooked back up to Discord. It took me like a week, and then the CAPTCHA finally started working again. And so I got it hooked back up. Thank you so much for supporting the show, and thank you for calling in. Go ahead.
Gang. I was just calling because of what I added in the super chat before about the Manson case. It's actually really, really interesting. If you look really into it, there's a lot more other than the Scientology and the Process Church connections. There are other connections like with the Beach Boys, and I think I said this before in another super chat, but there's like this weird, apparently Mama Cass from the Mamas and the Papas bought drugs from that house that Sharon Tate was murdered in, and she apparently went back there in the morning after the murders to buy drugs, found the bodies, panicked, left, and Steve McQueen actually organized to get the drugs out of the house before the police arrived, so that when the police arrived, there'll be no connections to the house having been had a drug dealing den being in it. So that's all I wanted to say. It was just a kind of interesting little tidbit.
Wasn't Frykowski a known drug dealer?
Frykowski and Sebring, I believe. Frykowski was a friend of Roman Polanski's. He brought over from Poland. Now, he was in with Roman Polanski, and Jay Sebring was a hairdresser, and he had connections to the Rat Pack, which is like Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr.
Sure.
And he was yeah, no, it's crazy. And he was apparently, that was a front. His hairdressing business was a front for selling drugs to the Rat Pack and all that sort of stuff. So,
well, it's known fact that Sebring did Sinatra's fake hair, so he made his toupee. So that was one of the things Sebring did. He didn't just cut hair; he made wigs for people back before cosmetic surgery. But I would also turn you on to an excellent book that was just published this year by O'Neill, titled Chaos, and it details that.
So the CIA one?
Yeah, it's about the CIA, and it's an excellent read. But he talks about there was something going on in California where all of these criminals were being run in huge operations. There was another one about DeFreeze, the Symbionese Liberation Army. It was total fake. It was a front. And the fact that Manson himself had been arrested in a huge auto trading thing and then got off. Like, they don't know why he was able to get away from the police during this huge bust that took place at the Spahn Ranch. But O'Neill goes into all these very suspicious aspects of Manson. Really fascinating book. An excellent read. I highly recommend that. And I talked to O'Neill. Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say the whole case is just super interesting, and you find these little connections, and you find out about Dennis Wilson and his connection to Tex Watson, and you know, they had something going on there, and it's just crazy. It's a whole rabbit hole.
They had something called, they had basically a Hollywood Hellfire Club, and they called themselves the Golden Penetrators, and they were involved.
Wait. The Golden Penetrators. I heard that correctly,
correct.
Right? Okay,
that's correct. So Wilson was part of that, and then Manson had his girls. There was all kinds of sketchy things going on, and yeah, it's really an incredible. If you look at all a lot of people knew Manson much more than after, you know, and I think O'Neill talks about that, because after things went bad, everybody didn't know Manson, but he was networked and all kinds of stuff, and some of those murders maybe have been for hire to made look like random murders.
And one more quick thing. I know I'm taking up a bit of time. I'm sorry. But the other connection is Terry Melcher. I believe his name was Terry Melcher, who was a record label. It was really high up in the record label industry. And he was the one that signed, or he was there to sign Manson to get his music career up and running. And there was a lot of and I think Melcher owned the house that Sharon Tate lived in, like they were renting from Terry. I can't remember all those details because it just gets I think you're crazy,
right.
But
he lived very close. But O'Neill actually met Melcher and talked to him. So he has like face-to-face things going on with Melcher in Santa Clara. But he was the son of Doris Day, you know, one of the Hollywood luminaries. So there's all kinds of. It's just an incredible.
That's right.
Case.
Thank you, caller. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish your thought. Appreciate it, man.
One of the Manson people was Atkins, who was a member of the Church of Satan and knew Anton LaVey. So these guys are weird things.
Now, you know what? These callers have been waiting so long. I was about to just wrap the whole segment, but they've been waiting so long, and they might have a question for you. That's why I'll bring them in. Eben, real quick, do you have a question for the guest?
No.
Yes or no? Okay, all right.
Sorry. Okay.
I'll put
Bring
you
me back in later.
Yes,
Bring me back in.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'll do. Immortal, do you have a question for the guest? Yes or no? If you don't, I'll bring you back in the next segment.
Yes, I do have
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. The Process Church of the Final Judgment. I just wanted to say the whole name in case people in the audience are aware what.
Oh, no, wait, let me turn you up because your
about.
volume's a little low, and I'll crank you up a little bit. Now say that again.
The Process Church of the Final
Yes, you watch
Judgment
whatever you want.
is the full name of the Process Church, in case people in the audience aren't aware.
Okay.
And I didn't know if the guest was aware of not the Church of Satan, but the Satanic Temple being connected with Process Church of the Final Judgment. That
Yes,
kind of
I actually found that out.
Hey, go ahead.
Yes, I am aware of that. They actually overlap. The guy who was the head, what is his name, Lucien,
yeah.
he knows a lot about the process, and they overlap. Some of these groups do overlap. If you look at Genesis P. Org, he seems to be a member of the Process Church and doing rituals before he passed away, just like last month, with them. So if you look at kind of like the Crowley model, these guys just join any occult group that'll have them, and just like Crowley did, actually.
Are you aware of the gray faction within
The what?
the gray faction?
The Gray Faction?
Yeah.
No, I'm not aware of that.
You said no.
No.
He said no. I mean, I'm not aware of it either. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, that's just connected to how the process is connected to Satanic Temple, and basically they supposedly help run cover for Christian pedophiles, et cetera, et cetera. Not going to go into it. My second thing was I looked through your Facebook page a little bit and saw you posted a post called Hitler's Secret Army by Tim Tate. I was curious on what your opinions on Hitler are, since you did mention earlier about a German cult thing. I know that the Germans were into occult stuff. Blah, blah. What's your opinion?
I'm glad we got Hitler in. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
You have a good one. Go ahead.
I wrote an article. If you want to read it, it's called Crowley and Hitler: The Ideology of Evil. If you want to read that online, you can just type that in.
I think that's a good idea. William Ramsey, thank you, sir, for coming on the Killstream. I honestly had a lot of fun tonight, and I think that we kind of stepped outside of our normal box and stuff like that. And we do that quite frequently on the Killstream. I just put this out on Twitter. That's why we succeed, because we do stuff like this. Well, and I appreciate you. Yeah, thank you so much. Plug your stuff again. Tell them where they can find you, and hopefully we can have you come back on. I think you enjoyed it too. Maybe you'll be down to come back on.
Yeah, absolutely. My books are on Amazon. Just type in William Ramsey, and then my videos are on Vimeo.com. You should type in William Ramsey, but I have 5 documentaries on there on those subjects: Aleister Crowley, Smiley Face Killers, Children of the Beast. So they're. Now
tell them where they can find you on Twitter.
Oh, it's I think I'm Twitter X William Ramsey X.
Okay,
so I think that's my Twitter handle, and I do post on Facebook sometimes. Yeah.
All right, I was making sure. Honestly, I'll give you a spoiler alert. The reason I asked that is because I thought that was your Twitter, but I wanted to make sure. So shout out to you, and thank you so much for coming on, man. You have a good one.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. All right, I can tell he has some shit going on.